What if the very tools you are using to destroy your ego are the exact things keeping it alive? When most of us begin a spiritual journey, we carry a very comforting assumption. We believe that if we meditate long enough, read the right books, and become mindful enough, our ego will simply fade away. We imagine the ego as a dark cloud that will eventually be burned off by the sunlight of our growing awareness. But the great Indian sage Ramana Maharshi warned of a truth that is far more subtle and far more dangerous. He revealed that the ego does not disappear easily. It does not surrender. Instead, it adapts. It survives. And it does so by pulling off the greatest trick imaginable. It disguises itself as your spiritual awakening. At the beginning of our lives, the ego is gross, loud, and very easy to spot. It wants pleasure. It demands recognition. It seeks control, wealth, and security. It wants to be the smartest person in the room. It wants to win. So feeling exhausted by this endless rat race, you turn inward. You begin meditation. You start practicing self-inquiry. And slowly, beautifully, those rough, worldly desires begin to soften. You become less reactive. You stop caring about climbing the corporate ladder. You feel a profound sense of peace. But right when you think you are finally making progress, something very strange happens in the shadows of your mind. The ego simply changes its costume. It drops the business suit and puts on a spiritual robe. Instead of saying, "I want to be rich," it starts saying, "I want to be liberated." Instead of chasing a higher salary, it begins chasing enlightenment. Instead of quietly comparing its bank account, it starts comparing its spiritual depth to others. It looks at a friend who is stressed and whispers, "I am more awakened than them. I am more healed. I understand things they don't." This is where the trap becomes almost invisible. Ramana Maharshi described this as the ego pretending to be the seeker. It is the ego's absolute masterpiece. Because now the ego no longer feels like the problem. It feels like the one doing the work. The ego takes ownership of your meditation practice. It starts keeping a spiritual resume. "I meditated for an hour today. I experienced an ego death. I am getting closer to the truth." But Maharshi was ruthlessly clear about this illusion. He stated, as long as there is someone claiming progress, the ego is still fully present. Think about that for a moment. The very thought, "I am making spiritual progress," requires an I. It requires a character, a protagonist in a story, moving from point A to point B, and that character is the ego. The ego survives through movement. It survives through the act of becoming better, becoming wiser, becoming more enlightened. But true spiritual realization is not about becoming anything at all. It is about seeing through the falsehood of the one who wants to become. This is exactly why Ramana Maharshi never told his students to fight their ego. If you declare war on your ego, you have already lost. Why? Because the one who is fighting the ego is the ego. It is like a thief dressing up as a police officer to help you search for the thief. It guarantees you will never find him. Instead of fighting, Maharshi offered a different path. A path not of combat, but of radical exposure. He asked a simple, devastating question. Who am I? Look directly at the one who claims to be on the spiritual path. When you sit down to meditate and you feel frustrated, ask yourself, who is frustrated? When you feel proud of your mindfulness, ask, who is proud? If you turn your awareness inward and search carefully for this I, you will make a shocking discovery. You will not find a solid person in there. You will only find thoughts. A thought arises. I am failing. Another thought follows. I need to meditate more. Another thought says, I am finally waking up. But if you look behind those thoughts, if you try to grab the thinker, there is nothing there. There is only a vast, empty silence. When this is seen clearly, something incredibly quiet happens. The entire spiritual project collapses. The ego has nowhere left to hide, because the ego can only survive in the darkness of unexamined habit. It cannot survive the light of direct looking. If you are currently feeling confused, frustrated, or deeply disappointed on your spiritual path, take heart. This might be the exact moment the ego's final disguise is being stripped away. The frustration is just the exhaustion of trying to become someone special. True spiritual maturity arrives with absolute simplicity. It is the deep, ordinary relief of realizing you don't need to achieve enlightenment, because there was never a you who was separate from it in the first place. Silence is not something you achieve. It is simply what remains when the effort to become someone else finally falls away. Look within. Who is looking?